Morning, everybody. Sorry for the delay. It's 8:14 a.m., May 19th. Welcome to my channel. All right, now, obviously, Moody's credit rating that was downgraded happened after the close on Friday. That sent markets down. Okay, and they sent them down the key levels. We'll get down. We'll get into that. Now, another thing that's been happening is the 40-year yield in Japan is at an all-time high, and the prime minister of Japan said it's a worse situation, just like Greece was, I believe, back in 2010 to 2015. So their debt to GDP is also worse. So this could affect the yen carry trade again. So keep an eye on that. Now today the 10-year yield is up 2.14%. Okay, that yield is being pesky. All right. So that's what's going on this morning. All right. Friday we did have a nice move up, but that was negated now by this Moody's credit rating. Okay. So without further ado, welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. All helps me find structure in the market, along with anchor view ops, and of course my market internals, which show me the strength of the market when the market opens. Okay. Now hopefully everybody join me every day in the morning. I give you the story of the markets, what's moving markets, the leader and the laggards, the market news, the economic calendar, go into daily charts. Then I give you long and short trade scenarios when I analyze the ES and Nasdaq futures. Okay. Also, we're giving you an hourly chart with certain levels in the ES and Nasdaq. I will be doing that again today. Okay. The earnings this week, there's not many that I think of. I think it's Palo Alto. It's like the only one that I can remember that's big. So I'm not really going to go into earnings this week. All right, we're kind of through the big boys. All right, so let's see what's moving markets today. Okay, let's go to the futures market and let's see. Look at that VIX. That good old VIX is up 12.53%. We're back to a 19.4 VIX. All right, 10-year yield is up 2.16%. Now, this could be the Moody's credit rating. This could also that Japan 40-year treasury, the bond. Let's just see. Gold is back, right, as a safe haven, up 1.83%. Silver's up 1.27. The Dow is down 0.57. Crude is down 6.63. Dollar's down 0.84. So other currencies are getting stronger against the dollar, which is going to make gold go up, which is what's happening. Usually they're inversely correlated. ES is down 1.07. 30-year bonds being sold down 1.35. The Russell is down 1.47. Nasdaq is down 1.50. Bitcoin, I realized that Bitcoin was at 105 and it's finally getting sold, down 1.53. Ethereum's down 7.68. I don't know why it's down that much, but it is. Okay. Mag 7 Plus. Let's see what's moving markets here. All right. So we have Berkshire Hathaway is flat. All right. Let's go to the one percenters. All right. GE down 1.03. Google's down 1.57. Whoa, it's moving around on me here. Netflix down 1.57. Apple down 1.58. Boeing down 1.61, Netflix down 1.64, Meta's down 1.82, Amazon down 1.90, AMD down 1.95, Nvidia's down 2.75. Jensen Huang was speaking in Taiwan this morning. Coinbase down 2.87, Broadcom down 3.02%, and the lagger of the day is Tesla, down 3.88%. All right, moving on to sectors, where we get a nice look at the guts of the market. All right. Staples is flat. Healthcare is flat. Healthcare is basically flat with the big help of United Healthcare up this morning. United Healthcare is up 4.52% today. It's back over $300. All right, it's at 305. Okay. Basic materials down 0.25. Utilities down 0.46. Real estate down 0.50. The real estate, especially with the mortgage rates, that is not going to help. The 10-year yield keeps rising. Okay. Financials down 0.56, energy down 0.61, communications down 0.70, industrials down 0.76. Discretionary down 1.31. That's your Tesla, your Home Depot, and your Amazon. All right. Technology, it's your largest weighted sector in the S&P 500. Okay. This down 1.57. That's your Apple, your Microsoft, your Nvidia, your Broadcom. Okay. And semiconductors. Semiconductors is your risk on, risk off. It is down 2.12%. Okay. That's what's going on today. All right. Moving on. We're going to look at some. We're going to look at some economic calendar here. Okay. Let's look at that. Now, this week is kind of light with data. I mean, data. Yeah, data. All right. It's on the lighter side. A lot of Fed speak this week. A lot of Fed speak. Fed Bostic was speaking this morning. All right. So we got Fed Jefferson, Fed Williams. All right. Fed Logan today. A lot of Fed speak today. Tomorrow, a bunch of Fed speak. Okay. 30-year mortgage on Wednesday. Thursday, Chicago Fed initial jobless claims. S&P. We got a bunch of PMI numbers here. Existing home sales. Friday, new home sales. Looks like Fed chair speaking on Sunday, 2:40 p.m. Futures open at 6 p.m. Okay, so interesting. Okay, interesting. Now we're talking about some market moving things. Let's go here. Okay, so Nvidia stock fell 3.1 after chipmaker CEO Jensen Huang unveiled a host of new artificial intelligence technology, both for enterprise and consumer applications, when delivering the keynote address at the Computex AI exhibition in Taiwan. Walmart stock fell 1.8 after U.S. President Donald Trump over the weekend said that the retail giant should absorb price increases stemming from higher import tariffs and warned against any price increases. Microsoft stock fell 0.8, with the software giant hosting its annual software development conference in Seattle. JP Morgan stock fell 0.8, with the major lender set to hold his much anticipated investor day later in the session, where Jamie Dimon is tipped to provide updates on his view of the implications of the levies. All right. Netflix stock fell 1.7 after JP Morgan downgraded its stance on the streaming giant to neutral from overweight. Let's see here. Qualcomm stock fell 0.8 after the semiconductor company announced it will develop custom data center CPUs designed to link with NVIDIA's AI chips. Okay. Now, what else we got here in the news? NVIDIA plans to sell tech. We just saw that to speed AI chip communication. Okay. Let's see. Blackstone to acquire TXNM Energy in $11.5 billion deal. Let's see. Trump. We know that. All right. Let's see here. So let's read this here. In Asia, Japan's Nikkei also ended down, lifting safe haven yen. Okay. That's what I talked about. That 40-year bond is at all-time highs in Japan, and this could now have the yen be rising, and that would be not good. That yen carry trade again. You had that scare where the yen ripped up. So if anybody doesn't know about that, you can look it up. But basically, yen's interest rates are so low that you can borrow money in yen, exchange it to US dollars, and then put it in riskier assets to get a better return. If the yen goes up, that is not good. Okay, that is not good. Let's look at anything else here that I want to note. We just talked about a bunch of that stuff. Let's see. Applied Materials. Berenberg raises target price to 250 from 245. Netflix. TD Cowen raises target price to 1325 from 1150. And you also got it. You saw there was a price decrease too in there. Let's look at the juice. Fed Bostic's been talking. Let's see here. I worry a lot about the inflation side of our mandate, he says. I'm leaning much more into one rate cut this year. Okay. So that's what's going on there. I don't think we need to get into any breadth charts. I think we're going to move on. I think we're going to go to the daily charts here. Let's do that. Let's look at our good old daily charts. Now we have that trend channel, okay, that we've been honoring. Okay, we've been honoring this. Look at that. Resistance, 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 resistance. It's just crazy, right? All right, so market closed at 594.20. Kind of broke out of almost a three-day balance. Okay, and propelled us all the way up to 594.20. However, we're at 587.90 or 587.85. 587.85. About right here. We're gapping down. We're below the lows of Friday. Okay, and we're kind of in balance. All right, I'll show you that later in futures. Let's look at futures. All right, so you can see we're right here in the middle of this range. So we're at balance. Okay, came pushed up. There's last week's highs. Okay, you just have to see how this carries out. Okay, moving on to the Qs. Qs honoring this channel. See it? All the way from back here. Resistance, 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 resistance. Crazy, right? All right, now we closed the 521.51. We're at 513.60. 513.60. So the Qs are all the way down here. They fell a lot more. All the way down here. So below these two daily lows, you're all the way down here. Okay, in the middle of this channel. Now remember that resistance I talked about here was right about the 520s. Okay. Look at futures. So here's futures. Here's that trend channel as well in futures. Okay. So you can see these three last sessions we are below. That's pretty decently weak. You're below the last 3 days. The last three sessions in futures. Price is hanging out below it. Okay. So we'll have to see. All right, now we can move on. We can move on to that bond market and see what the heck is going on in that bond market. Okay, because that is not good. Breaking out of this downtrend, right? You had this wedge. You kind of fell, caught itself. Now, this white line is the anchor VWAP for 2025. Okay, remember I showed you guys the 4.2 yield, I believe it was the most traded price of the last 5 years. Okay, you can see we've just been in this range. Now, if we continue to go up, that is usually not good for the markets, because eventually if we keep going higher, people are going to be like, well, why won't I just go into the bond market, get a beautiful yield, and not wait for any risk, right? Just have to see. All right, now I move on to that dollar. Now dollar, like I said, I was bullish the dollar because it was so oversold, looking to get in there. But look, we're in this little wedge. Okay, I got a big downtrend line, couldn't close over that. Now you're pushing back down, and we're right here at this trend line, and we're right at last week's lows. So we have to see. All right, let's go to our third head of that monster. That's our VIX. That's 30 days out of fear, hedging, whatever you want to call it. You can see here we're gapping up. We're back up. We were down. What did we close at on Friday? 17.24 VIX. We're already back at the 19.48. Can we go back into the 20s? Then you get larger ranges. It's pretty interesting that we fell all the way, and let's see if we start to creep back up again. Who knows? Don't know. All right, now we're going to go over into some important levels. I want to show you guys on the hourly charts in the ES futures. I think it's been very important. It's driven a lot of my trades of late. So let's talk about that. And let's go there. Okay. Here's the hourly charts on the ES. All right, now we have our trend channel. Support, support. We're right there. We hit it again. Support. Okay, so the trend channel in futures is right on the money. Okay, it's getting a support right here. Right now, this is why I'm confluence trading. Okay, why? Here's another key level. Okay, and it's very important when I use these anchored VWAPs. Okay, I love them because it just says, it tells you who's in control at a certain point in time. So this is when the U.S. and China trade deal happened over the weekend. So I put an anchor VWAP right here, right? And you can see we follow this support, support, support. Look where we're at, right on that anchored VWAP, right? So what I love about this anchored VWAP is if it holds, that just shows you the average buyer is making money from the China-U.S. trade deal, all right, in Switzerland. If this anchored VWAP gets taken out, that starts to mean buyers are underwater. It's a very important anchored VWAP. All right, very important. Now, what does it also line up with? Like I said, I just talked about the anchor VWAP, talked about this trend channel that we're in. We're also at ultimate balance. Okay, you can see right here this big spike is the most traded price of the last month in the week. We're right there. This is your bull bear line. Okay, 5908. Write it down. Okay, write it down. Now, what did I say on Friday? I said 5976 would be a point of resistance in the market from this low volume node. Right here, I said this pre-market. Look where we went. Right there. That's that low volume node. Okay? That was where people took profits. And now look, we're back down in balance, ultimate balance. Okay? So this is where a decision gets made. Do we get bought off this ultimate balance, anchored VWAP, and trend channel? Those confluences. Do we start to go back up? Or do we lose it and break everybody who bought from US Chart Chain Deal, put them underwater, and then possibly test this high volume node here? I don't know, right? But what I do know is the confluences are holding support right now. But I don't know what's going to happen when the market opens, okay? Nobody does. If somebody tells you they do, they're lying. Okay? Let's check out the NASDAQ real quick. I don't know if I put this up there, but let's see here. So let's look at the NASDAQ. Okay, so you can see the NASDAQ structure is weaker. Okay, very different structure here. Very important here. Remember, in the ES, you have that, you were right at the most traded price of the month and the week. We're not there in the Qs. We're out of this congestion in the Qs. Look, you took out all this support I was just talking about. Okay. Oh, I didn't mention in the ES, I put an anchored VWAP right here in the ES as well. So this anchored VWAP signifies sellers from these highs. Okay. Now, here's the anchored VWAP from the US China trade deal here. You can see support, 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 and then it hasn't been touched till when? Now. So this was broken here. Now we're hanging out there. Again, this is very important. If this gets lost and you start to do this, you might hit that trend channel here. But then you know the average buyer is underwater here. And this can cause a move at least back down to this anchor VWAP from this swing low. Okay? And you can almost see a double top here, triple top here in the NASDAQ. This had supply. Okay? It came up, came up, came up, and then boom, 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 right there. Okay? So this is the most traded price of the week, right there. We're underneath that. Okay? But remember, we're in ultimate balance in the ES, and we're broken these key supports in the NASDAQ. So NASDAQ's relatively weaker, right? Tends to make the markets not as easy to read. Okay? All right. That is your hourly charts. Okay? And we're going to move on to the market profile, volume profile. me change my workspace. Let's see here. Workspace is going to get changed. We're going to analyze these futures. See what we did on Friday. I actually had a really nice trade on Friday. Let's see here. Let's move over here. Okay. And we'll just look real quickly at that rolling profile for the week. Here it is right here. All right, so let's look at the rolling profile. So we got value area is here. That's 70% of the trade. Trading volume has happened in that area. Then you have this. Okay, price is right here. It's an ultimate balance. You can see this turquoise box and this purple box inside here. Okay, and these levels act as magnets. That's why I use them. That's why I chart them. They always come back when there's indecision. They come back right home to the most traded price. Okay, that's why I said it's the bull bear line. 59.08, 59.10. You want to make it even, is the most traded price of a month and a week. Very, very important. Okay, now let's recap what happened on Friday. Okay, so we opened right here. Okay, and it was choppy mess. All right, and I just waited until I got my trade. Okay, and I put it in the pre-market. You can see it. The most traded price was here of the previous day. Okay, and guess what? The overnight lows. And I said if it came down there, I wanted to be long. Okay, and it came right to Papa, right to Daddy, and I was like, all right. Now I almost went long right at the lows, but then I said let me give it enough time, and I did this in the SPY. I believe I got long like 598, or I mean 599, 98 or something like that, close to 590, and then I rode it all the way up. I think I got out around here. Obviously, it went higher. Okay. Now, what happened on Friday was tech was relatively weak to the rest of the market. Okay, and that you could see the Qs was having trouble, but the rest of the market was so strong it was pulling the market, and then eventually QQQ 520 had to break, and it wasn't breaking, and it happened to be 520 was a large gamma level, and that was OPEX on Friday. So I was like, man, that might pin there. As the market was moving, I was like, you know what? Let me just. I got 2-to-1 basically on that trade. I said, let me put my stop, a tight stop. It got tagged. We did wind up pulling back. Okay, we did wind up pulling back. So, that was very bullish close, but that was taken out right at Moody's when they downgraded the credit rating of the U.S. So that was it. So this is pretty much doesn't matter anymore. All right. Now we're looking for levels, right? We're gapping down. So first thing you want to look at is the gap fill. That's 59.24 here. Kind of lines up with this supply zone. Okay. And also ultimate balance, 59. Let's just call it 10. Remember I said that level, and look where we just come down to in the overnight. We were below it. Okay. So this area, let's just include that here in the overnight lows, can be considered a confluence low. Okay. Now the most traded price of the overnight is actually ultimate balance. So don't get caught here. This is just a hornet's nest. Okay. If you don't know what's the most traded price of the month in the week, and you just think it's some random level, you're not going to know, oh my God, I'm going to enter here. And you might be like, what the heck's going on here? We're chopping around. Well, you're going to chop around here. Okay, you need to move away from this level to get some type of pain felt in the market. Okay, some type of pain. So this is going to be tricky today. It's going to be tricky because you're going to have people thinking buy the dip. You're going to have people thinking, ooh, I want to short this Moody downgrade. It is going to be tricky. And Monday, sometimes you need to take some time to really let Monday settle. Okay? So we have supply here and we have demand here. This is actually a 12-hour demand, which is pretty powerful. So that's here. And you have this demand here with another demand below it. Okay? Now this level here, 58.67 to 56.72, is probably your last defense, probably with some type of bear trap. Okay, some type of bear trap. Okay, so it's really all about this big level, 59.10. Do we find acceptance back over it? Do we find acceptance below it? Okay, and we're also, just to give you some, we're almost at the midpoint of that. So this is like a very, very difficult position you're at. Ultimate balance. I'm not a fan of that. Now you will move away today. You will go like this or this. This will happen. It's guaranteed. And that's what I'm going to be interested. Okay. Now the play, if you're asking me, well, why not just go long or short here? Because it's a 50-50 thing. It's like there's no edge in it for me. Okay. I don't really know which way it's going to go. But I'd rather be here or here and going, how's the market looking, right? All right. Let's go to the scenarios here. This, by the way, was your market profile, volume profile analysis. Okay, and we're going to get right into scenarios here. All right, so here we go. Today, like I said, I'm not loving this. This isn't like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Nah, that trade location right now is not good for my style. Okay, not good. We're going to start with bull. Okay, remember, above this level is bullish, 59.10. Above 59.10 is bullish. Okay, so right here, remember what I said. There's going to be an inside out trade here. That's not for me, but it will be. And okay, so if we push down, right, you're in demand already. If we come down here, okay, remember I said this area is a lot of demand here. If the market is like, quickly comes down here and it's not that weak, I would be interested in getting long here. Let's get some lower highs, and you could possibly move right back up to ultimate balance. If you can break and hold and find acceptance, you could start working off some of these sellers. Okay? Now, number two, what if we just go up here? Okay, what I'd like to see, take out this supply zone, find some support, and try to work off the sellers. Okay? That's really all I'm interested in. Because if we lose this, right, 58.67, 58.62, if we lose this, the market's probably going to be decently weak. Okay? And this week, there's not some big data that's coming out that market's going to be like, well, I'm not holding the bag through that. Okay? So let's go to the short side. All right. Price again is holding right basically at ultimate balance. Okay, so if I want to be short here, right? Let's say we hold this, push up, hit this supply, right? Fail here, lower high. That would be a nice move, and you can take some profits right at ultimate balance. Okay, if you break ultimate balance and hold, then you go and target that 58, 67, 62 area. Okay, and remember, this is all demand. Okay, so this probably would be a good place to take profit, but like, because there's so much demand down here, okay, you'd really need to rip through all of it and get to that unfilled gap down there. I don't know if that's in the cards. All right, I don't know, But this is what I'd be looking for. Now you could also push through this, come here, bounce, and then if you start finding acceptance below here, you could also push lower. Okay. Of course, you can come all the way back up. I wouldn't like that though. I wouldn't like this market to rip all the way back up to think short here. I'm not saying it can't work, but I don't think bias wise I would be a favor of that trade. All right. That is the ES. Now let's move over to the NASDAQ. Let's see how we're looking here in the NASDAQ. Okay. Let me open this up. I keep forgetting to open this up to see the overnight activity here. Okay. All right. Let's go right into it. So I want to show you something here. This profile here. Look at this. You got excess to the bottom. That's this overnight. And then you have value. And then you have a little bit of excess here. Okay. So it's kind of balanced, right? So now NASDAQ is relatively weaker. Remember, we broke all these lows. Okay. Broke them all. Broke them all. Okay. Now, important to note. Important to note. There's single prints here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put these single prints on my chart because I don't want to miss them. And I might have to go back to ES and do them. But there's single prints basically from here. Let's go from here that they've already been cleaned. Let's go from right here to all the way down here. Single prints are emotional buying or selling. In this case, buying. And these are from the US trade China deal here. So let me get my template here and load my single prints in here. Okay. These are single prints. All right. Now, if we revisit them, okay, and I have to bring back the elephant on the toothpick here. Okay. Why do I put that, right? Because this toothpick here has been holding up this elephant. Okay. There's your elephant. You got the ear. You got the trunk. Right? He's being held up by a toothpick, which a toothpick should not hold up the elephant. This is weak foundation. Look at this thin volume. Okay, there won't be a lot of support there, but if there is, that's bullish. Okay, that is bullish. So that you have to factor that into our plan. Okay, now you can see a bunch of acceptance was above here, right? Value in this area. We are below value. All right, we are below value. Where's some key levels on this chart? Well, we're gapping down. So our first thing is 213.20 is our gap fill. That happens to be our most traded price of the week. We are below that. That's your gap fill. Okay. Now we also have key resistance here around 215.29 and supply and last week's highs right up there. Okay. Now below here, overnight lows, we have our single prints. Remember, the ES has a lot of demand below it. This is not. So the NASDAQ can really get crushed here. Okay. This is what I'm looking at. All right. Now, if the market can move this most traded price of the week lower today, you have a good chance of pushing lower. If it can't, it's going to return back to value, and we're going to go right back to this balance. All right. So that, with that being said, let's get right into the NASDAQ scenarios. And we're going to start with, we'll actually start with the bull side here. Okay, now we have single prints. Now remember when I talked about the elephant on the toothpick, Elfie? Okay, there's an important thing to note. If single prints become support, that is a strong toothpick, and you want to go out and sell that toothpick because it shouldn't hold up an elephant, but that means it's bullish. So if the market, which for overnight most traded prices right here, pushes lower, takes out the overnight lows, and you get some type of support like this, lower highs, and the market's not that weak, you could possibly start to move up back to this most trader pricing, fill that gap, and then try to push back into here and try to move back up. Okay? Now, if it's quick, all right, here's will be a bear trap. If you just quickly, whoa, single prints, you lose them, and you have this demand zone down here, and you do like a V, then it could be a nice move. And I would say probably only back to here. Now, this has to be quick, and the market can't be that weak for me to be interested in that. I'm more interested in this long. Okay? It's about all I'm looking for. But the market needs to show me tech. Now, just to give you what's been happening the last couple sessions for tech, you can see a rotation happening out of tech, possibly into staples, healthcare. You can see it the last couple sessions. Tech has been relatively weaker. Okay, so I don't know if that's a rotation I don't know. They just made a big run. So that's that. Okay, that's the bull side. Okay, now we have to talk about the bear side. And we have a supply zone right here. Okay. So what I could see definitely happen here. Okay. Number one, you get some type of correction, right? See the suggestion here. This is the most traded price of the overnight. You can push up, possibly fill the gap, hit the most traded price of the week. If that causes resistance, you get a lower high. Now you got liquidity from the lows to take out. You could take those lows out. Now, if this market starts to get weak and people are like, uh-oh, single prints are going to be your friend, and you're going to rip right through them. Okay, that level is about 209.72. If you rip through that, you got demand here. This could be it. Okay, this could be it. This could be the move. And then you get a little bounce. Okay, that would be honestly a nice trade. Now, if you just push down and break and you start to hold, find acceptance, yeah, we could do that too. Okay, it's kind of all I'd be interested in, to be honest with you. But I have to see. Every day when that market opens, I get new information that I don't have now. And then I make a very educated decision on a trade, where I want to put risk on. Okay, where do I want to put risk on? That's always the question. Where do I want to put risk on? Where is the risk worth trading, right? That's the question all the time. All right, is this worth it? Have I seen this movie before? Is this an edge? Or am I forcing myself on the market? Are all my things lining up, or is it kind of lining up, right? And when they're kind of lining up and you got FOMO and you hit that button and you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then you just watching a car crash. You're just like, why did I enter that? That's not even part of my system, right? Been there, done that, right? Trying to just make those times as small as possible. Okay? Make those times as small as possible, because that's trading, right? I've been trading pretty good for the last 3 weeks because I'm waiting for what I like to see. What I like to see, right? And the more success you have when you do that, it's easier to wait. It's easier to wait. It's not always easy to wait, but it's if I'm like, I don't really like it, this market's not doing anything, I'll go ahead and do other stuff, set an alert, and then be like, I'm really not interested unless it tests a major level or something. And then what do you know? You wait, and then all of a sudden, get an alert, and I'm like, oh, it actually went there. All right, well, here's what I want to do here. This is what I want to see next. That works out a lot better than going, man, oh, this looks short, oh, like, because then it's like, as soon as you start contemplating like that, it's probably not a good trade. Okay, and to this day, that's still not easy to do. It's still not easy to do. Okay, so hopefully you enjoy my analysis. Please give me a thumbs up or a like. That'd be much appreciated. Now, of course, I do this every morning. Please join me, and I give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, the leaders and the laggards, and of course the daily charts. And I just gave you long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and the ES. Okay. Hopefully one of these plans work out and I get to implement it. If not, there's no trade. If not, there's no trade. Okay, so this market's wild. We just had a nice move up. Now we had negative news. Can this really bring down the market a little bit? Now remember, May generally is a bearish in seasonality, and it kind of takes you and bottoms you out usually in June. And then there's a bull rally to about August or so, September. Then you get a dip. You bottom out usually in October, early November, and get Santa Claus. So who knows? It seems like May is usually sell and go. May sell and go away. All right. Who knows? All right. So that's my story today. Now again, I'm pretty active. Been active in my Discord. Okay. So if you want to join, Confluence Trading. All right. Kind of. I give you exactly what I'm seeing every morning, and I'm pretty spot on of what I see. Okay. Pretty spot on. All right. So come join me there. All right. Now, if there's some interest in going live, I'm probably gonna start doing that again. All right. I took a little break from that, but I'm probably gonna start doing that again. Of course, if you join and you want to see it, I don't even care if there's one, two, three people in there. Let's do it. You can ask questions. All right. So I'll see you there, and I'll just see you tomorrow. All right, everybody.